Yo, what's up guys? Another video in Up Your Artifact game. So we're talking about life drain. Got a 31 life drained over there. Let's see how it works. I got a few questions going like, okay, does it work on vampire? Yes or no? There's some like inconclusive answers, so I haven't even tried. So that's one thing I'm gonna try. Which units would I recommend it on? Which units would I not recommend it on? And is it actually better to go for life drain, or would you just do more damage and therefore you life drain more? So what is better, like a high life drain artifact or like a high damage artifact? And in that sense you also life drain but also do extra damage, so that makes kind of more sense in some sense. But maybe the life drain is that much for some units and gives potential to solo some stuff, and therefore it's actually really good. So let's dive into it. So first of all, I'm gonna remove this artifact and I'm gonna put any artifact on it. Gonna see how much he life drains on a certain hit, certain crit. And then we're gonna put this artifact on. Let's see how much he does. Okay, so I put in an artifact that doesn't have any other stats than just 100 base attack. So we get like same base ground. It has damage on wind and the other one has damage on water. So I have to remember to use a unit that's neither of those. So to test this, I gave Susanoo some vampire runes. It's a pretty decent set, and we're gonna go full setup and clap this Savannah a few times. I'm gonna go in without speed lead, so it doesn't change that much, and it probably doesn't mess up my turn order, which might otherwise. Okay, let's see. We're going heavy damage. This probably does one shot. Let's see if you can see how much. We got a 13k life drain on a 38k damage. Which is a decent amount. Thing still didn't die. Okay, let's switch that artifact. Okay, so the artifact is switched. Damage should be exactly the same. Let's see how much we... no, you miss armor break. Okay, let's see how much damage this would be. We healed 17k. The other one was a 13k heal. So we upped the healing by like 4k. Which is a decent amount. But on, like, how many times are you actually hitting like 38Ks, which is a lot of damage. But we do know that the life drain does work on vampire runes, so that is a thing we do know. The healing, well, yeah, I think the healing is straight up like just 31% extra of what it used to be. So that's a decent amount of damage. It's a good healing, but upping like 4k heals when you're hitting like 40k, like how often are you actually hitting 40k? It's difficult. Let's find an artifact to actually increase the damage of Susanoo and therefore see like how much it would heal then. Okay, so I have this artifact here with 21% damage on good. The damage on bad wouldn't do anything, but we're increasing the crit damage by 21%. How much crit damage are you on? You're 145 crit damage, which makes it 165 crit damage, which is a reasonable increase. Let's see how much this would actually do. Okay, let's see how much healing we do. We healed for 14k and we increased the damage by like 3k. So it is nowhere near actually like healing the same amount as like the 17k from before. It's still like what, 2.5k off of that, which is, well, almost 2.6. But you do increase the damage by like what, close to 10%? No, a little bit less, like 7-8% by adding that artifact that I just did just now. So therefore, what I say is life drain that good? I think it's good on like a side like line. Like if you have a unit that has like good damage artifact lines and then it happened to have life drain in there, it could be nice, it could be niche, but would it necessarily be like a main line to focus on? Like would you have like, okay, this is my Miho, and I'm gonna put a lot of life drain. So I'm actually gonna talk about concept of like a few units where I would say do or do not use life drain. So I'm just gonna go over the most common units which are used with life drain. So I think the most commonly used unit on vampire is of course Miho. The reason I would not put life drain on Miho are the following. Miho pretty much shines at the end. Like I'm just talking RTA. I'm not talking like Siege that much. I think for Siege, well, I'll get into Siege later. But for Miho in general, she shines when the enemy is full on crit and the whole team has an issue with killing her. That's pretty much the thing you want to get to with Miho. And then The reason why I would not put her on life drain is because she always go down to 0 HP. The moment you fill that up more, like especially at the end of the fight, you're gonna get a lot of HP anyways. So do you really need to life drain more? No, I would say you need more damage. The moment you do more damage, you actually kill the units. And she's gonna be at 0 HP or 1 HP like all the time because of her passive, and you probably use her when she has to survive those kind of things. It would be nice, like let's say she is bombed and she life drains a little bit more and therefore survives the bomb. So I do see some like usage, but I wouldn't put it as a main focus, like not at all. One thing it is good though against is ragdolls. So often Miho is used against like ragdoll Jaeger, that kind of stuff. It's a really good counter on Jaeger, but actually not that good on ragdoll. The issue with ragdoll is he has a reflect. So the damage you do, you get a little bit back. So if you don't life drain more than you did the damage, you're gonna have an issue. So that you can overcome with extra life drain. But the issue, however, is if there's a shield on the ragdoll, you still do damage, you still get the reflect, and you still freaking die. So therefore, Miho, RTA, I wouldn't necessarily go for a life drain. However, if you would say like Siege, and I think that counts for any Siege unit, if you would go like Vampire Destroy, and you have like, let's say a Tractor. I think Tractor is a really good example on that one. Where Tractor, that's Tractor. So Tractor Vampire Destroy, and you're working against a team that can't armor break you, they can't really stun you, they can't really do that kind of stuff. I think for a Tractor it's beneficial to have the life drain, because you don't really care about doing a little bit more damage, you're just caring about surviving. Like, you don't necessarily want to kill as fast as possible, you want to sustain as much as possible. So for those kind of teams on Tractor, I would see is used. Then the other unit, which is most likely the most famous to be known on Vampire as well, is Leica. So Leica is actually an interesting one because his S1, not his S2, also life drains where like 50% of the inflicted damage. So could you actually go for a Leica that is on Rage or a Violent and in life drain, and therefore life drain enough? I think it's really minimum because his main damage is actually coming from his S2 rather than his S1. But the reason why I see Leica working on life drain is mainly because you want to over sustain, like you want to keep him healthy, you want to keep him as full as possible, because his passive actually makes that units cannot hit like more than 30% of the HP of Leica. So let's say you're fighting a Juno and a Praha and that kind of stuff. So they think like, okay, I have multi-hitters so I can overdo the damage of Leica. But actually, you're not doing that much damage on Leica. And also like Molly's, that kind of stuff. You're not doing that much damage on Leica. And you want to keep like Leica as healthy as possible. So for that reason, like if units do not have a passive that brings their HP pretty much to death, which is Miho, but also Garo, which I will come to in a second, you pretty much like, then it really makes sense to have extra life drain. So for Leica, yes, I would say go for extra life drain. It does make sense. Still not the main focus. Probably I would opt to go for more heavy damage as well. But the thing is, his counter doesn't work on the single target crit damage, but only on your own turn. Then the counter doesn't work. So then the S1 doesn't work. So therefore, maybe like adding in more life drain for Leica, I can see like the usage. And you could use it like a lot of life drain. If you actually do a lot of damage on your counters, life drain, you could probably get away with a Leica that's on Rage, Rage or Violent, but still life drain enough with your S1. The only issue is the moment you start actually killing stuff with S2, you probably don't life drain as much. So therefore it's like a little bit of a trade-off, because Rage Leica is used in a different way than a Vampire Leica. A Vampire Leica is meant to like solo some stuff at some point. A Rage Leica is meant to kill something like straight off the bat. So maybe with a Rage Leica and your life drain runes, you could do both for them. So then the other unit I was talking about, well, Rakan, I don't see Rakan that much. You see him in Siege a little bit and that kind of stuff. Also what I talked about with Siege, like for Tractor, that kind of works for like every of those units. Like if it's meant to solo something, life drain is actually pretty good. Then Garo again is pretty much similar to Miho. It has a passive which pretty much like nullifies your death. So you could say like, okay, the more full HP I am, the less chance it is to get close to that like possible death range. Yeah, the moment you're using a Garo or a Miho, you're pretty much playing against stuff that would most likely not kill you. So no multi-hitters in the case of Garo. no non-critters in the case of Miho. So once you're fighting these, the life drain gets like less important and the more damage output gets more important. So for those units, I wouldn't recommend it. Is it necessarily bad? No, it's still pretty good, but I wouldn't really recommend it as main focus. Then another unit which has been seen more lately on Vampire as well, which I think is an underrated unit and actually pretty good on Vampire in RTA. If you're fighting like units that do AoE hits and then his glancing passive proc, especially against like Wind, so if you're playing like Chunk Punks and that kind of stuff, it's actually a legit counter against Chunk Punk. He starts hitting them, and if you life drain on those kind of hits, they can't do that much chip damage, and therefore you actually... This is a pretty good unit on Vampire. And I think the life drain might be pretty beneficial on him as well. The 31%, it did opt a lot, but 31%, the max roll is an 8 if I'm not mistaken. It is quite some, but that's a near max roll. So that we're talking about 23 speed ungrinded. That's pretty much the equal to 31 life drain. So that's a difficult roll to actually get. With that said, life drain has some niche usage. Would I really focus on it? No, probably not. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.